Okay, do you live in a mobile home and want to replace your bathroom or kitchen faucet, but when you open the cabinet it looks like this? So you can see they've got these plastic pipes called PEX pipes, and it's got a custom fit tube. There's no valve at all. So there's no way to shut off the water here locally, and it goes right up to the faucet and connects there. This is a problem because for most people, when they open up their space underneath their kitchen sink or bathroom sink, you have valves, number one. So you have valves, you can shut off the paper water locally, and then you also have iron pipe, and you don't have this custom PEX stuff. Let's show you how to do it. This is actually a $14 repair. There's really only this part right here. Oops, there's my finger. This part right here is the only odd part that you have to add into the system to make this repair. And here's the part. It's the SharkBite Evo PEX, and these are two valves that connect the PEX to the PEX, make a permanent fit, and then it adds a valve to the system, and then you just add your traditional plumbing tubes to connect to a traditional faucet. And here's the tubes that I bought right here. And here are the tools that I used to make this repair. These 5 items. I've got a pipe cutter here. This is a pipe cutter that also works for copper pipe. You may have a PEX, custom PEX cutter as well, but this works just as well and also works on copper. So in my opinion, it's preferable. A pair of pliers, Sharpie. This is a special PEX deburring tool. This is, I think, $14 as well. And of course, a roll of plumbing tape. That might even come with your new faucet. Check the box. Okay, this is the actual repair that I've done, and this is the supply line or plumbing tube that I bought. It is, as you can see, a 1/2 inch FIP to a 3/8 inch OD comp. And I know these are confusing, but that's the description of the two fittings. The 1/2 inch is this part that fits to a standard faucet, and then your 3/8 is that connection, and then that connects to this unique part that we looked at earlier, the SharkBite valve. So you can see this is the other supply hose, and it connects to right here. This is still the tail end of the supply hose, and then this is the SharkBite special SharkBite valve that I showed you the package to earlier, and that piece connects. It just snaps on. You just push it onto the PEX pipe, and this allows us to be able to shut off the flow of water just by turning that, which makes the repair a lot easier. Now, when I measured this, I actually went to the store, and all I did was I took a picture of my thumb on the pipe, and I took that picture into the store to figure out the size of this thing, of the PEX valve. So once I knew the size of this pipe, I could gauge by just by looking at it that this was the right size SharkBite valve. Now the SharkBite comes with this little this is just a cosmetic piece that covers this part of the valve. And you can, if you just eyeball it, you can tell the sizes of the tubes are pretty different, and you just need to find a SharkBite that fits your PEX. And this cosmetic piece makes the whole thing look a little nicer, but you know, when you go to the store, you probably want to remove it, slide it away in the package, or just look at the back end, because obviously there's a gap in this thing. This gap is so that you can actually just remove it entirely, because you can just slip it off the PEX. But yeah, when it's in the package, just turn this part around inside the valve package and look at this, the dimensions on this part, and see if it matches up to your photo of your thumb. Use your thumb to try and get an idea of what size PEX pipe you have. Here's the main water shutoff for the house. And for this particular model, which I'm sure is going to be the same, these valves all turn clockwise to shut off. So all you have to do is find your main water shutoff and rotate the valve until it stops. It may take a little pressure to get going. Once it starts going, you'll feel the stop. Don't force it. It's plastic. You don't want to break it. Once you have the water turned off, go to a low-lying faucet in the house. Often this is a tub, and I like to put a bucket underneath there, save the water. Just open it up and run both the hot and the cold until no more water comes out. You may find that this works better, that the water flows a little faster if you also open a faucet, both hot and cold, to drain all the water out of the system. This is going to mean that you'll have less water coming out of your pipes when you actually cut the pipes, and that's the next step. Okay, so when you're down here, crawl under your sink, make sure the faucet's empty, like run the water out of the faucet that you're trying to replace. Now that the system is dry, mostly, there's still going to be some residual water in there, but you want to measure the pipe and figure out where you're going to make your cut. So your under sink is going to look kind of like this, right? You can see this is where it connected to the old sink, and you just have a straight line from here all the way up to the sink. Nothing. And what you need to do is obviously install this new hardware and figure out where, and the first thing you got to do is figure out where to make your cut. Now I bought the shortest supply lines available at the store. These are 12 inches, and you could measure, but I actually just got down here with a Sharpie and I held up all the equipment to see where a safe cut would be. Now, it's important to remember that the PEX is flexible. Not quite garden hose flexible, but quite flexible, which is going to give you plenty of leeway to move your supply pipes around, your PEX pipes around, which is great because that's going to give you a little bit of leeway to work with a safety margin. And the safety margin that I was shooting for when I cut these was about an inch and a half, 2 inches. Maybe go with 2 inches just to be safe, because when you come back in, if you're basically going to have a little bit of extra PEX to make sure that you're not short, right? The worst case scenario is you cut your PEX and you can't get everything to connect. That's pretty bad. That means that you'll basically have to install your valve on it, and go back to the store, get a longer one of these supply pipes. So it's not the end of the world, but it's very inconvenient. You don't want to do that. So I wanted a little extra inch and a half, 2 inches, and then I knew that there's enough play here in the PEX pipe where if it's a little bit longer, I'm still going to be, as you can see, in good shape. So what I did was I lined up, I got the new faucet, lined up this nut, knowing that the nut would go in about halfway. So you want to make sure that the nut itself is kind of halfway down the threads of the faucet itself. So the faucet piece comes down a little bit, and you want to line up the nut so that there's a little bit of overlap there.
then the hose comes down and it connects with your PEX valve. So I was just, the other day I was just holding up the PEX valve. Again, there's going to be a little bit of overlap here with the nut. And then obviously you can see how far the PEX is going to go, and the valve ends here, and that this PEX pipe is going to go into this enclosure inside the valve, and you want to cut off the PEX at about that level. And you do have a pretty significant amount of room for error here, so don't get too worried about it. Once you figured out your distance, mark it with Sharpie, and you will be ready to cut. On top of the PEX valve, the shark bite PEX valve, you will find a nut and this little copper ring. And because of the kind of supply pipe that we bought, you do not need these. These are for compression fitting. So that's a different kind of pipe. That's usually when you have a straight pipe coming in, just a straight tube with no fitting. So if your supply pipe is just a straight tube, then you would use this. But that's not the situation we're in. So you can actually take these and just recycle them. You don't need them. You're going to have two pairs of these. So 2 copper rings and 2 of these steel rings. We don't need them. Once you've marked where you want to make your cut, you actually want to disconnect the supply pipe, the PEX pipe underneath your sink. You have to just reach up there, kind of blind, because you've got to reach around your sink. You could do it, and you might need a pair of pliers to get it loosened enough to take this thing off, because obviously it's seen a lot of water pass through it. So disconnect these two from your sink, and you'll be ready for the cut. All right, for the cutting stage, look at your cutter. There's 2 support rollers here, and that's your pipe wants to sit between those 2 rollers, and then above it is the cutting wheel. So you want your pipe to sit right there between those 2 rollers. Once you have your cutter set up, you just fit it onto the pipe as we described earlier between those 2 rollers. Here's your cut mark, and all you have to do is get it so that it's a little tight. Using this, you just turn this thing to tighten it up a little bit and spin it around a few times. Just spin it around 3 or 4 times. That'll cut. This little wheel is plenty strong enough to cut through this soft plastic. Spin it around 2 or 3 times, then tighten it up again until it's firm, until it's got a good grip on the pipe, and repeat the process. Since you have the PEX disconnected from the faucet, you should be able to move it around left and right and get enough clearance to spin the cutter around in that space underneath the sink. It might take some gymnastics, but you can do it. Spin it around, keep tightening it. After maybe 4 or 5 tightens, it'll just cut right through. It'll cut right through, and water will probably come out of the pipe. So have some rags or a towel around the pipe, especially down at the bottom of the sink, to keep water from spraying everywhere. But if you've turned off your water successfully, you'll only get an ounce or 2. Once this thing cuts through, obviously it'll cut through on one side of the pipe. It'll have, it's cutting around in a circle, right? So when it finally breaks through, it's going to break through at one section of the pipe. You want to kind of support the pipe with one hand, so you keep it in place, and keep spinning it around until it cuts through all the way around. So this thing will be kind of cockeye a little bit, but you just want to hold it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. Keep cutting around so that you get a nice clean cut. And if you don't get a clean cut, that's okay. We got something to help with that. As you might have guessed, the tool to help with getting a good clean cut is the deburring tool. And it's got various standard PEX sizes here, as well as a circular cutting wheel. As you can see, just one edge of the wheel passes through the chamber where you stick your pipe. And that will help round down the outer edge of your PEX pipe and get you a nice clean edge that will mate properly with the shark bite valve. All you have to do is stick the tool onto the end of the pipe that's still connected to your house underneath your sink. Put it on there and spin it around a few times. You won't feel a lot of change actually, because all it's doing is smoothing down the outer edge of the pipe. But if it's doing its job, you should be able to put your thumb on it, run your thumb around, and feel a nice smooth edge. Your pipe cutting tool will probably also have a deburring tool. This deburring tool is designed for copper, so it's actually meant to deburr on the inside of the pipe. You stick it inside the pipe like so. Hard to do because I'm holding the camera. If you have a burr, if you have an uneven piece of plastic on the inside edge of the pipe, use this deburring tool to just kind of shave it off. But go easy, because you don't want to cut through this edge. You want a nice clean edge inside and outside. The other thing you want to do with your deburring tool is when it's on there, push it in all the way. This is also a measuring tool to show you how deeply the PEX needs to go into the valve to make a good seal. Once you have the tool on that end of your pipe, get your Sharpie and mark the pipe to show you how far the valve needs to be seated onto the pipe to make a good seal. Okay, at this point you should have a naked PEX supply pipe coming in, and it's cut off at the level you wanted. Now you have to fit the shark bite valve onto the PEX, and this is just a matter of forcing it, just pushing it firmly, super firmly, onto the PEX. Use your good hand to hold and support the PEX pipe. Use your non-dominant hand to push the valve down, because you want to make sure that this thing doesn't get kinked or broken or anything. That's the way I would recommend doing it. You do have to push pretty firmly. It's kind of a pain. And the nice thing about this particular type of shark bite valve is that it's got this green indicator. It's a little plastic piece that is revealed when you've pushed it far enough. Come on, light. Pushed it far enough, and notice where the green indicator is. It doesn't come all the way up to the top of the black. There's kind of a beveled edge at the top of the black there. It doesn't need to extend to the beveled edge. It just has to extend to this part that doesn't bevel in. So once it's level with that square edge, you're good. Okay, that's the indicator that they mention on the outside of the package. It is not very clear. You can also see here the mark that I put on the pipe to show how deeply I needed to seat the valve. Obviously, this particular valve does not need to be seated as deeply as the deburring tool seemed to indicate, because we do have the green indicator, and obviously we don't have any leaks. So once you get that mounted on there, you can rotate the valve. Make sure that the valve is rotated towards you so that you can use it, and shut it off. Once you get both of these valves installed on both sides, then you can shut them off and you can turn the water on again to the house. No problem. If you've done this right, everything should be drying and good to go. Okay, once you have the valves on there, you pretty much have a standard sink replacement. You need to put the new sink in, and
you put the plumbing tape on this business end of the sink that right here that descends underneath the sink level, and you just tighten the pipe up to it. Make sure to get before actually don't do what like I did. You want to once you get the plumbing tape on it, you want to connect this nut, this plastic nut that comes with the sink or with the faucet, the new faucet. Connect that nut before you put the supply hose, because this plastic nut is too small to fit over this nut. So don't connect the supply hose yet. Attach that nut to the bottom of your faucet, and once you have that mounted, you can attach the supply hose, connect the supply hose to the valve, again putting plumbing tape around it. You want to run the plumbing tape in the same direction as you're rotating the nut. So righty tighty, lefty loosey. And tighten it to a good firm tightness, but don't over tighten. You can use a pair of pliers to get it to where you want it to be, and you should be good to go. So there you go, $15 repair. Everything else that we bought here was the supply hose, which you would have to buy anyhow for a regular plumbing repair, and then of course the faucet itself, a few tools, but really the only part that was any different from a regular plumbing repair is this shark bite valve, and it was as you saw on my receipt, less than $15. I bought 2 in a package, which will save you a ton of money actually, because the single valve is almost the same price. That is the story. Hope that was helpful. Have a good one.